Hi, my name is Atwood and welcome to the Nigerian Reader. Today, I'm going to start this video by saying how it's been thrilling how much welcome I have been on BookTube after how much the reception after I posted my BookTube newbie tag video. It's been I didn't know I was very nervous when I did that video because I didn't know what to expect, but it's been very amazing. So I want to say thank you to everybody who watched the video, liked, and dropped their comments, encouraging comments. I'm really grateful. Um, so yeah, today I want to talk about this book which I finished. I read last week, The Handmaid Tale. Yeah. I know I should have. It's an old book. It's a book I should have read, but yeah, I'm just reading. I just read it recently for the first time. It's my second Atwood book. The first was The Robber's Bride. This is the second, and let me just say that when I think about Margaret Atwood, the word that comes to my mind is badass. It has to be the way she writes, which is she has this wittiness that is just on another level. So what's the handmaid tale about? Who is the handmaid? The handmaid is okay. So we have this country, fictional country. Let me say the book is set in the future. It was written in 1985, published in 1985, but it's set in the far future. Uh, in the Republic of Gilead. So we have this Republic of Gilead, which is a theocracy, and women are divided according to their functions in the society. At the top of that hierarchy, we have it's a hierarchy, and at the top we have the wives who are powerful because they are married to the commandants. The big men in the society. And then we have the daughters of the wives and the Marthas who are like um who are more or less housemates. They did the cooking, the cleaning and everything. And we had handmaids, the handmaids who whose basic function is to rear children for the commandants and the wives who can't have children. Um, and we have the on women who are considered abominations of women, because they dare to think they are equal to men. Yes, so I want to say that this book reminded me a lot of, because before I think two books prior to this book, before reading this book I read, is that correct? Is that sentence correct? Two books prior. But anyway, before I read this book, I read Mona El Tahawi's Earth Scarves and Hymens, Why the Middle East Needs a Sexual Revolution. Mona is a Egyptian feminist activist and writer, and her book, I think, it's a very important book. It reminded me of that I think it paints the same kind of environment, where women are subjugated. It reminded me a lot of that book, which is very sad. It also reminded me a lot of reading 1984, which I think, I'm sorry, I think for obvious reasons there's a theme of um there's a futuristic theme, set in the future, um and there's also the theme of oppression. So for those reasons, it reminded me of reading 1984. Um, so I think the so the story is about a particular handmaid, Offred, who is she's the narrator of the book, and she tells us her story, basically how she how she deals with, so there's this oppressive society, and she's this woman with desire, and with memory too, because I think I have to say that memory plays a huge role in this book, because we're made to understand that there was a time before. It's called the time before in the book, the time before this present time, and we are made to understand that a revolution happened that led to this present time, this present oppressive regime. um and Offred remembers the time before, because in the time before she was a married woman with a daughter, and now she's just a handmaid whose basic function is to rear children. um so she remembers the time before, and this causes obviously longing and great pain, because she doesn't know if her husband is dead or if her little daughter is dead. She doesn't know where they are, if they are alive, where they are, and things like that. And she also discovers, um how do I put this? Yeah, so in the blog it says that, but even the repressive state cannot obliterate desire, neither Offred's nor that of the two men on which our future hangs. You'll find out as you read these two men they talk about in the blog. I think I've painted a good enough yeah, because there's really no plot, I don't think, to it. It's just a sort of documentation. It's not boring because documentation might sound boring. It's not boring at all. So I want to say the themes I found interesting in this book. There was obviously the theme um, of oppression and repression, um, because the handmaids weren't allowed to do anything. They were basically um, oppressed. Um, there was also the theme of memory and ignoring. Um, so let me talk about the theme of memory first, because I think I mentioned that earlier, that Alfred remembers the past, which is a huge. I mean, if you are going to start a revolution and going to create a new state like that, you probably have to obliterate your citizens' memories, because that's always going to be. But in 1984, there was also that issue with memory, because Wilson kept remembering, having these flashes of memory, which caused the problem. So that's it for theme of memory. And the theme of ignoring, I think, is quite. So in the time before, there were these things that were happening that people were noticing, reading in the newspapers, but because it did not concern them personally, they didn't do anything about it. And it was these things that culminated in the revolution that created the theocratic and state. It says on page 66 of the book that nothing changes instantaneously. There was always this. Let me find it. I think the quote was something I found very moving. Yeah, it says, we lived as usual by ignoring. Ignoring isn't the same as ignorance. You have to work at it. Nothing changes instantaneously. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'll be boiled to death before you knew it. There were stories in the newspapers, of course, corpses in ditches or the woods, burgeoned to death or mutilated, with interfered with, as they used to say, but they were about other women, and men who did such things were other men. None of them were men. None of them were the men we knew. The newspaper stories were like dreams to us, bad dreams dreamt by others. How awful, we would say, and they were. But they were awful without being believable. They were too melodramatic. They had a dimension that was not the dimension of our lives. We were people, where the people were not in the newspaper, in the papers. We lived in blank white spaces at the edges of print. It gave us more freedom. We lived in the gaps between the stories. So I think that is important, especially in the society we live in today, where we sort of ignore a lot of things because they are not affecting us. Um, um, I think we do that a lot in Africa. It's so general to say Africa, but I know certainly in Nigeria where everybody's just there's this thing we say in Yoruba. It's kolori dioriemu. That's each person should hold his own head. That's bear your own cross in a way. Yeah, and I found that instructive. Um, there was also the theme of the seats. So there's this scene particularly in the book that reminded me of a scene in the movie 12 Years a Slave, um, where the master reads to the slaves and tells them about how if the slaves disobey the masters, the Lord had ordained it for the masters to flog the slaves and stuff. Um, so that's the scene in 12 Years a Slave, which came to my mind when I read this scene about how. Okay, I think I have an excerpt here. It says the Bible is kept locked up the way people once kept tea locked up, so the servants couldn't steal it. It is an incendiary device. Who knows what would make of it if we ever got our hands on it. We can be read to from it by him, but we cannot read. And yeah, so there's this thing they call the ritual where the commander, before the copulation, I think they had it perhaps every week. For the copulation, the commander comes into the sitting room. Everybody's gathered in the sitting room. The matters, the house helps, the handmaids and the wife gather, and the commander picks up the Bible and reads from it a passage that's which justifies the act of, yeah, of the copulation with a woman that's not his wife and stuff. And he reads that every week, but he can't from the Bible supposedly. But no, the handmaids are not supposed to read the Bible. Who knows what they will find? Um, um, yeah, there was also there was that theme of deceit. There was this theme of defiance, mostly symbolized in the character of Moira, who is the friend of um, Offred in the before time. In the time before, they were very close friends, and she's a gay, she's a lesbian, and she's this very outspoken, what they would categorize in the Republic of Gilead as an on woman. She's very, you know, outspoken and stuff. So yeah, there's a theme of defiance. There's also the theme of, I don't know what to call it, but I don't want to give this away. You'll find out. You'll find out pretty soon. So I want to say what did I like about this book and did I not like about the book? Because there are things I didn't like about it. A few things. Well, I'll start with what I did like. What I liked was how Margaret Atwood writes like a god. God. I mean, she's so good. There's no doubt. She's very good with monologues. I don't know if that makes sense. She's very good with voice. I should say that because in her novel The Robber Bride, there was this interplay of voices. She's very good with voices. I love that. I really like in this book Offred's voice was very subtle, very deeply emotional. Um, I liked that. I liked even though it made me cringe, it's sad, but I liked the fact that she was able to. She calls it speculative fiction. the fact that she was able to create this world which is so identical to the world in which we live, so identical, which is, and that's what's actually scary. Yeah. um I like that. I like that. I like the relationship between, you'll find out, Offred and Nick. And I like how the book ends. We are not quite sure what is going to happen to Offred. I really like that. I like inconclusive ending. So you just, whatever works for you, whatever makes you sleep at night. I really like that about the book. What I didn't like was, I think we don't talk enough about how certain descriptions are in books. You don't get certain descriptions. You don't understand them because they're about things you don't know or you can't relate with. Um, I think we need to talk about that. Um, yeah, I think that was basically the only thing, because there were passages I I don't skip books, but there were passages I just read without comprehending. And they were mostly descriptions, but as soon as I could get into the narration, it was a really good book. I don't know if I've done justice to this book. I really liked it, that's for sure. I'm going to give it 3.5 over 5 of 5 stars. It's an amazing book, and I think people should pick it up because it's so relevant in the society. I mean, it was written in the 20th century, but it's still very relevant in the society we're living today. Okay, so that is all about The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you like please, and drop your comments and share if you can. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Obatolu, and I'll see you next time.